So thank you guys for being here this morning. As always, I appreciate it. We are going to talk about niche or niche concepts. Now I say niche, I know some people say niche. For the sake of today, it's just going to be niche. Hold on, let me slide this over. Okay, there we go. So basically, there's this idea that in order to be great, you've got to be everything to everybody. And what I will tell you guys, and if you were in either of my last two classes that I've done this month, I have talked about how it's actually better to be a master of one particular area than to simply be the agent that works everything from Spring Hill to Sarasota. You can't know every neighborhood, you can't know all those things because it's just not possible. There's just too many. But some of the most successful agents that I've known are the ones that only work one type of property or one type of buyer or one community or a couple of communities. Excuse me. So it's kind of this backwards concept from what you learn in most other sales industries. And what I'll tell you guys is, even though it seems counterintuitive, I promise you that you will end up doing more business if you specialize, okay? So how do you build a thriving real estate business with a niche? Well, basically, there's 4 different things that we're going to talk about. The categories of common niches for real estate agents. We're going to learn how to determine the best one for you based on your personal interests and your opportunity. We're going to determine getting started tasks. So some tasks, some challenges, things that you need to do to really be successful. And then review the essential steps for the ongoing growth and expansion. Now, this is where, when we get to number 4, where some people miss it. They start to work a specific group or a specific area, but then they forget to continue to grow it. So what I'm going to talk to you guys about is how to take the foundations of what we're going to build today and really grow it into something that can become a very large percentage of your business. So what is a niche in real estate? Well, a niche is a specialized sector of the property market. Okay, so very simply, it is a very small piece of a very large puzzle, okay? What value does being a specialist provide to the customer? Well, they know that you are the absolute expert in that particular thing, whether it's a community, whether it's a type of buyer, a type of seller, whatever it is. Now, I've used this example, and if you guys have been in my other classes, you will have heard it, but it warrants saying again. When you go to your general physician, your copay is something like $20, $25, right? Sometimes even less than that. You pay for the general practitioner. But when you go see a specialist, that same copay might be $50 or $100. So you are paying, let's just use the 25 and 100. If it's 25 for a general practitioner and 100 for a specialist, you are paying 4 times as much to go see that specialist because they have knowledge that your general practitioner probably doesn't, right? Think about it the same way in real estate. If I am just the general agent that works every community and just does everything, then that expectation is going to be that I'm not the specialist. I'm not the one who knows specifically what's going on, what's happening, how it's supposed to work. But if I'm the expert, if I am the one person that you want to come to because I specialize in whatever it is that you have the need for, now all of a sudden what I get paid becomes much less of a conversation. You're not going to get beat up over your commission as much because at the end of the day, you are the specialist. You are the one that knows how to sell that property or work with that customer, right? So this is the best way that I can teach you guys to be able to maximize your income and also to be able to have customers that are going to most likely be somebody you would want to work with. And we're going to talk about why that is. So what value rather does being a specialist bring? Well, it allows you to have a narrowed focus and to have that expertise. So now I don't have to learn every community in Pasco County. I can know just the ones that I choose to specialize in. Now, does that mean I'm going to miss opportunities in other neighborhoods? Absolutely, it does. But here's the cool part. You're going to gain a better return on those neighborhoods or on those types of communities or on those types of customers than you ever would. So it becomes that cost risk analysis. Yes, I'm going to miss out on buyers or sellers that are over here, but if I can get all of the buyers over here, or even half of the buyers or sellers over here, then I'm going to end up with more business at a higher price point, at a higher commission, and with less stress. So that's where it kind of comes out. And so this is the hard part for a lot of people to really wrap their head around, is we have this idea that if I just do everything for everybody, then I'm going to make more money. And I'll tell you guys, when I was working in Dunedin, we had an agent in our office. She worked 2 communities, the one that she lived in and the one right next door to it. That's it. If the buyer or seller was not in one of those 2 communities, she referred it out. This woman made well over $150,000 a year by working 2 communities. But you know what? When you drove through any of those communities, more often than not, her sign was going to be in the front yard. And the buyers, because they saw her sign in every one of those listings in the community, were more likely to call her because they knew that she was the neighborhood expert. Makes sense, right? So what value does being a specialist bring for yourself? Well, higher income for one. Now, you may not want any of the things on the screen, and I have to just share this with you. Up in the top right, I just learned that Louis Vuitton makes a chainsaw. I don't know why I was so amused by that, but people who use chainsaws probably aren't using Louis Vuitton and vice versa, but you could, whatever. You could get the sports car, you could get, whatever it is. At the end of the day, being a specialist is going to result in higher income for you. That's just the way it's going to go. How you choose to spend that income is 100% up to you. I don't judge, but I just thought these were some interesting things to do. So let's talk for just a second about what some of these categories might be. It could be types of housing. It could be a location. It could be a certain type of buyer or seller. It could be based on a certain knowledge or skill set. It could also be based on hobbies or interests. So when you think about a real estate niche, it is a million different things to a million different people. And the cool thing is, if you're selective about which one you choose, and you really kind of do a little bit of research and a little bit of investigation, sorry, choking on air. Okay. There are so many different little subcategories of real estate that you could probably get into one that is not very highly saturated because it's something that maybe somebody else didn't think about, something that you are specifically interested in. Now, this is important because if it's not something you're interested in, then it's going to be very hard for you to relate to those people that are interested in those things as well. So, samples of housing, property, real estate niches: condos, waterfront homes, luxury homes, new construction. These are all things that you could focus on as an agent to specialize in that kind of thing. So let's look at new construction just as an example. In new construction, some of these builders will actually let agents come sit their models. So they call it model minding. So what you do is you actually go sit in their models, and anybody that comes in that day, you get to represent. Now, depending on the traffic in that community, that might equate to 2 or 3 buyers. Well, let's just say for a second that these homes are $400,000 a piece. Would you go sit in a model center to pick up $1.2 million worth of inventory? I would. I mean, at 3%, you're talking $36,000. It's not such a bad day, right? So new construction might be a way to go. Luxury homes. Now, keep in mind, luxury homes are going to have a higher price point, but traditionally they're going to take longer to sell. So it becomes that trade-off. People who work luxury homes or who are just getting started in luxury homes typically also work what I call the bread and butter listings. Those are the ones that you throw out on the market, you get under contract in under a week, you close in 30 to 45 days, and they just keep turning over. A luxury home, you may be able to get a contract on it, but traditionally they're going to take a little bit longer to sell. So, you know, $1 million property, that's a nice $33,000, $34,000 commission, but it might take you 6 months to get it. So you kind of have to weigh those out. Condos are another one. If you can get into the condos, meaning you know somebody on the HOA, or you live in one of the condos, or you know, you somehow have an affiliation there, condos are a really good type of inventory to be able to focus on. Additionally, it might be location specific. So it might be a county, it might be a city. Those to me are a little bit vague. You know, if I wanted to do all of Spring Hill, I mean, in theory I could, but how many homes are there in Spring Hill? It's really hard to kind of become the master of all of Spring Hill. But maybe it's a community. Maybe it's Sterling Hills. Maybe it's Gulf Harbors and Newport Richey. Maybe it's Clearwater Beach. Whatever it is, you could have those farm areas where you could actually go in and become the master of that particular market segment. Now, it might be a lifestyle specific community, golf course, equestrian, waterfront, retirement communities, 55 and up communities. They could be focused on the lifestyle. Now, again, I would encourage you to let this be something that you are passionate about. So I've shared this in classes before. I don't play golf. My wife got me golf lessons when we lived in Nashville. I took all my lessons with the pro. We started to play our first round of golf. I got to the 7th hole. Lightning struck about a quarter of a mile away. I put my clubs up, and I really have never played since. And that was 10 years ago. It just wasn't my thing. So for me, I would never focus on golf course communities because it seems the strangest thing in the world to me that golf is the only sport that you hit your ball and then you go chase it. I've just never understood the concept. And the way that you win at golf is by playing the least amount of golf possible. So I can't wrap my head around it. I grew up playing baseball and football, so golf to me just doesn't make sense. So I don't focus on golf course communities, but it may be your thing. It may be something that you wake up and you just can't wait to go hit a golf ball. In that case, you might want to focus on golf course communities because it's something that you're going to have in common with those people. Waterfront homes, same thing. If you're afraid of the ocean, waterfront homes may not be where you want to focus because traditionally, the people that are buying those waterfront homes are the ones that are going to be passionate about the ocean or, you know, having their feet in the sand. So having that point of commonality is going to be really beneficial for becoming the expert. When you're developing your specific subsection or your specific niche, what I would tell you is you can't fake this. This is not something where you're like, I really hate Palm Harbor. I hate the traffic. I hate the congestion, but I'm going to focus on convincing other people that they want to live there. It doesn't work. You can't be fake. You can't be phony. It has to be something that you legitimately share that passion for. And the reason for that is you can fool some of the people all of the time. You can even fool all of the people some of the time, but you can never fool all the people all the time. So you need to be able to share those points of commonality. And if you're being fake, it's eventually going to come out. So find an area that is something that you legitimately enjoy. Maybe it's a type of buyer or seller, a first-time home buyer, an investor, couples who are getting divorced, growing families, retirees, whatever that is. These are just some more examples of other type of niche markets that you could really jump into. Divorcing couples. Now, this sounds really odd, but in a majority of cases, people, when they get divorced, they have to sell the house. So it might be that you become close with divorce attorneys or things like that. There are even companies that will send you lists of people that have filed for divorce in your particular county. So I'll share this with you. It sounds a little bit morbid, but one of my best referral sources over the years was a funeral director. So what would happen is mom or dad would pass away, the kids would inherit this house, and they would have no idea what to do with it. So the funeral director, when they're talking to the kids, would go, you know what? I've got a fantastic real estate agent. He's familiar with probate processes. He's familiar with all the things that you have to do to be able to sell mom or dad's house or grandma or grandpa's house or whatever the case may be. And so he would literally call me and go, hey, Greg, I've got Tom Smith here sitting in my office. You know, his mom passed away, and we were just talking about the fact that he's got a home to sell and really didn't know what the next steps were. I told him that you have done a lot of this. Do you mind talking to him? Absolutely not. Stick him on the phone. Let's talk. So he would literally hand the phone to Tom Smith, and we would have a very quick conversation about, okay, you know, tell me a little bit about the house. Tell me, you know, what it is, what's the address, what's a good contact information for you, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And in doing so, I would pick up these referrals. And do you think this person that's sitting there is going to interview 3, 4, 5 realtors? No. They already know that they have the expert. Why are they going to go looking for anybody else? So at that point, that's business that I don't have to fight for. I don't have to compete for. In many cases, I never met the children. They would literally mail me a key, and I would go over. I would either schedule an estate sale, or, you know, if they've already cleaned out the house of everything they want, I would call either hospice or the Disabled American Veterans or Goodwill or somebody else and just say, listen, I've got this house full of stuff. You can have every single bit of it as long as you come take all of it. And they would literally come in, they'd send a truck, they'd send 4 or 5 people, and 3 hours later, the house was empty. And now I had a house that was empty, ready to be cleaned, and I would coordinate with a cleaner to come in and have the house professionally cleaned once everything was out. And I'm taking care of all of this for the seller. Because at this point, they've just lost mom, dad, grandma, aunt, uncle, whoever it is. The last thing they need to be stressed out about is, what are all the things that has to happen for this home to be able to sell? So I would literally take care of all of it. And in most cases, I would say, hey, I've got a cleaning company that I work with. They charge $250 to come in and scrub this house top to bottom once it's empty. Is that something you're okay with? Yep, I'm okay with that. Send me the bill. Perfect. I would call and schedule it. I would coordinate to meet them there. And then I would just have them send the bill to the seller. In some cases, I picked it up. You know, if the kid was like, hey, listen, you know, I'm really strapped for cash. You know, once the house sells, I'm more than happy to reimburse you for it. But right now, I couldn't afford it. I don't have the money for it. Sometimes that happens. So I would go ahead and pay for it, and I would just keep an addendum where I said, cleaning company, $250, new locks, $90, new whatever, and we would keep an addendum. And then at the end of it, I would sign it and the seller would sign it saying, as the seller, I agree to reimburse Greg for these expenses. And then I would just send that to the title company, and they would actually reimburse me for my expenses outside of my commission, because obviously these are things that I paid for out of my pocket. So I'm not going to pay a split to my brokerage on it, but that's money that would be reimbursed back to me as an agent separate from my commission. Maybe it's investors. Investors are ones who typically buy houses and then rehab them and either rent them out or turn around and resell them. So this becomes a good volume of business. I worked with a couple of investors over the years. They had their set criteria, and they would tell me, if you have a house that is this many bedrooms, this many bathrooms, this type of flooring, a roof that is at least this old or not any older than this old, and has, XYZ. If you find it under this price point, send it to me and I'll buy it. Well, in a lot of cases, I would go out and try and find listings that I knew my investors would purchase, because I could go in and say, listen, here's what your house is worth. Okay. Let's say your house is worth $165,000. I've got an investor that would buy this exact house for $150,000 all day long. So if you're willing to sell it at $150,000, we can work out some of the logistics, but I can get your house sold today without it having to hit the market, without anything else. This is a service that I could provide to the seller by knowing that, hey, listen, I can get this done for you. Now, it may be in the seller's best interest to put it into the MLS and have a pool of buyers that would, go in and bid on it and submit offers and maybe get into a highest and best where they could get more offers. And that becomes part of the conversation too. My buyer or my investor is good to 150. I think the house is worth 165. So if you want to go ahead and do 165, we'll put it out on the MLS. We'll offer, it as a mass offering and see what we can get. In some cases, it may be that all the investors are going to offer you the same 150. And now we've got all this traffic of investors coming in and all these other people. So being knowledgeable about all of this is what sets me apart. It allowed me to get those listings, whether my investors wanted to buy them or not, because they knew that I knew how to market their property. So these are just things to think about. These are all different niche subgroups that you could focus on to grow your business. Now, there's also a bunch of certifications that are out there representing buyers. So the ABR, senior home buying and selling, the resort or second home, global or international transactions, green homes, just so many different ones out there that you guys could do. So it might be worth going and getting a certification or a specialization in one of these specialties, so that in your marketing, you can present yourself as, I am a second home specialist. If you're looking to buy a vacation home, I have the certification for it. I can make sure that we get you the right one. Do you think that those buyers are going to feel more comfortable working with somebody who specifically focuses on second homes or vacation homes? I would think so. So these are all things that you guys can do to be able to position your business in such a way that you don't have to compete as hard for the business, because now you are the expert. You are the one that people come to because they know that you know what you're talking about. Now, if I sell first-time home buyers and waterfront and luxury homes and second homes and condos, and I do it in a 50-mile radius, can I say that I'm the expert in anything? No. I have experience doing all of these things, but I can't position myself as that expert. And that's where it's a very specific differentiation in terms of how you present yourself to them. So, hobbies and interests: fishing, golf, other clubs and organizations. Maybe you're into sailing. I actually sold a house for somebody. It was a situation where it was his mom's house, but he was part of a sailing club. And I was just really intrigued by it because I've been on boats. I mean, I grew up in Florida. I've been on boats almost my entire life, but I've never really been sailing. And so he was telling me all about the sailboat and how different it is and all the things they do. And then I come to find out that they actually have a sailing club where they compete against other sailing clubs throughout the Bay Area. And I was like, well, that's kind of cool. So as we started talking about it, I started plugging in with him. And then over the course of the next 12 months, I got 4 transactions from people in his sailing club because we just shared that interest. We shared that love of the water. And in turn, it became a great referral source. So sometimes the things that you are passionate about are going to become great opportunities for you to be able to start getting more business. Maybe it's an occupation. Maybe you just have a really big soft spot for a police officer or a fireman or first responders or military or teachers or, gosh, anything. You could focus your entire business on selling homes to teachers. Teachers change schools all the time. So, and even if they don't, teachers have access to 20 or 30 students every single year that may be looking to buy or sell a home. They could become a great referral source for you. Let's say you wanted to support teachers. Maybe what you could say is 10% or, excuse me, even just a percentage of my commissions get donated back to a local PTA chapter or something like that. You could support the schools through your real estate business. So think about it this way. It doesn't just have to be, I want to sell waterfront homes, or I want to sell luxury homes, or I want to sell whatever. It could be a potentially, or it could potentially be a group of people that you market to. My dad was retired Navy. All of my brothers were in the military. So I have a soft spot for veteran buyers. Excuse me. So a lot of my business over the years were veterans that were getting into homes. And in turn, that was a very good source of business for me because I knew the lingo, I knew the lifestyle, you know, I connected with those people. So I've given you guys 3 examples of things that I specialized over the years just to kind of keep business going. Now, here's the cool thing. Once you get started working within a specific subgroup, they're going to refer you people that also fit into that subgroup. So now you're just starting to get word of mouth referrals. You're not having to spend a ton of money marketing. You're not having to spend a ton of money advertising. You can get those word of mouth referrals, and then maybe you focus your advertising on whatever the next subsection or niche would be. So that's kind of what I did. I started with one, and then as I was continuing to get a good stronghold there, I would add a second one. And then I'd start to work. Now, I was a little bit different because I always need the thrill of the chase. So for me, I'm like, okay, cool. I get all the listings in this neighborhood. Awesome. For you, that might be enough. You may be satisfied in your business just working that neighborhood or that subsection or whatever it is. Maybe you want to continue to grow your business. And if you want to grow your business, then there are ways that you can do that as well. Adding something new or changing or tweaking. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Sorry about that. So how do we get started? Excuse me. When you're starting to work, there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just, I want to work with golf course communities, so let me go do that. There's a lot of planning that goes on. And what I'll tell you guys is this planning should be done on paper. So not something that lives up here, but something that is an active business plan that gets put onto paper. And the reason I say that is when you put it to paper, it creates accountability. It creates this idea that when I write it down and I commit it to paper, I may as well have just written it in stone. Because that's the level of accountability that I put on something when I put it down on paper. That's why I say you guys should have dream boards and vision boards, because it's something that you tangibly put down on paper or put down on your board and then hang it on the wall wherever you're going to see it every single day, because it creates that accountability. If you don't have that accountability, this just becomes this pie in the sky dream that may or may not ever happen. Put it on paper. Think about it. So, determine a niche that aligns with your personal likes and desires. What are you passionate about? What is it? And for every single person in this class and every person that watches this recorded, your passion would be different than mine. My passion is the ocean, right? I love the ocean. I love being out on the boat. I love swimming and tagging sharks. I love scuba diving. I love coral reefs. I love all of that. Kayaking, boating, paddleboarding, any of it. You get me out on the water, I am in my happy place. That's my zen, right? But for you, maybe it's something completely different. Maybe your passion is for basketball or football or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or whatever your passion is, you can market your business around it. You know, if you want to work hard enough, maybe you can become the official realtor of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There's a company with Remax, or a team with Remax rather, that is the official real estate partner of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, it took them a while to get there, but they have it. In between, I think, of the second and third period, they get named at every single home game. Do you think that has value to their business? Absolutely, it does. They pay dearly for it, but they're obviously getting a good return on investment because they do it year after year after year. So think about it. Think about what you're passionate about. Think about if I could work with one type of property, neighborhood, group, person, whatever. Who and what would that be? What would that look like? Put it on paper. Start writing it out. Now, it may be a cluttered disaster of a mess at the beginning. And what I'll tell you is if anybody's ever been in like a group brainstorming session, there's no such thing as a bad idea. Because something that you say, no matter how stupid it may sound, may trigger something for somebody else who then turns around and goes, wait, stop there for a second. I don't like that idea, but what if we did this instead? And then all of a sudden somebody goes, oh, I like that idea, but what if we tweak that to do this? And then all of a sudden this fantastic idea has come out of the stupidest thing that somebody has ever said. And I know that's a little bit extreme, but I'm telling you, I've worked in groups and worked in other industries where literally the $1 million idea came from the stupidest thing that I've ever heard in my life. So don't be too hard on yourself. When you're starting these ideas, think about it and go, this is kind of how I want to do it. Now, I had a friend that worked golf course communities. So what he would do is a couple of days a week, he would go have lunch at the golf club. Because who did he meet? People that were playing golf at that golf club. So he would just sit and he'd have his laptop open and he'd be working and having lunch. And he would just kind of be listening to the conversations going on around him. And it's really interesting how often real estate comes into a conversation if you're listening for it. So what he would do is on occasion, you know, he would start to see the same people there and he would just walk over and go, hey guys, let me buy your lunch today. If you'll give me 10 minutes to talk to you, I'd be more than happy to buy your lunch. And he'd sit down and go, hey, I'm Mike. I'm a real estate agent. I live, you know, nearby. I'm here quite a bit. I love golf. I see that you guys are here fairly frequently. What I'd like to ask is if you guys happen to hear of anybody in this community that's looking to buy or sell, I'd love the opportunity to help them. I'm really passionate about this community. I love golf. And so, you know, I just really like the opportunity to be able to help them. Is that something you guys would be willing to do? And they're like, dude, you just bought my lunch. Of course I'll send you a referral if I ever hear of anybody. But what have you done? By buying their lunch, you have now created a situation where they feel like they owe you something. So the $25 it cost to buy their lunch, they now owe you something. How are they going to repay that? By sending you a referral. Because in the back of their mind, especially if this is somebody that you see regularly, they're going to come back next week and go, "Hey, Mike, how's it going?" They remember who you are because you bought their lunch. And it's also going to reinforce, "Oh, crap, who do I know that needs to buy or sell a house here?" It's that reinforcement. He got in 1 year, because we tracked this. I made him keep track of his return on investment with this. He spent $1,000 that year buying people lunch or buying people a beer or whatever. Cost him $1,000 in 12 months. He had 7 transactions at an average sales price of over $300,000 that he directly attributed to people that he bought a beer or bought lunch for. So would you spend $1,000 to get $2.1 million worth of business? I sure as hell would, all day long and twice on Sunday. $1,000 for $2.1 million in commission, or $2.1 million worth of commission, I guess is the better way of saying that. So let's just assume that even at 2%, okay, let's just say 2%, $2 million is $40,000 in commission. Would you spend $1,000 to make $40,000? Of course, who wouldn't? That's crazy. And in reality, the commissions were more like 2.5% to 3%. So now you're talking $50,000 to $60,000. $1,000 to make 60. But it was that thinking outside the box. He would sponsor golf tournaments. You know, anytime there was a golf tournament at that club, he would sponsor it. Because again, it gave him an opportunity to get in front of the people that have the highest likelihood to send him business. Now, you can apply the same logic to anything. I'm just giving you guys examples. What we're going to talk about as we go through the next few slides, we're going to look specifically at first-time home buyers. But keep in mind, this is just one example of the 50 that I could think of just off the top of my head. So determine one that aligns with your passions. Maybe your passion is helping people get out of renting and into buying. That's what you want to do. That's what gets you out of bed in the morning. So what do? Well, help them stop paying rent. They're paying their landlord's mortgage, and help them start building their own equity. That's what you're passionate about? Awesome. How do I do that? Well, let's research and analyze the viable opportunity that's provided in your market area. How many apartment complexes are there in the geographic area that you want to work with first-time home buyers? If there is one apartment complex within 30 miles, maybe it's not a great niche to focus on. In reality, in Florida, you throw a rock and you're going to hit half a dozen apartment complexes. So it's a pretty good place to start. Additionally, are there homes or are there communities that offer those starter homes? Okay, cool. I've got a ton of apartment communities around me, but all of the homes in this area are $500,000 and up. First-time home buyers are not buying $500,000 properties traditionally. So where are those homes that are in the 100 to 250 range? Do you have a good opportunity to get those properties or to get buyers into those properties? Do they exist in the geographic area that you want to work? This is where that research comes in. This is where you have to make that determination. Next, I want you to list out the challenges that you foresee in order to achieve that success. So first-time home buyers. Well, how do I find people that are looking to buy their first home? How do I present an offer in such a way that I could get a seller to accept my buyer's offer? That's a challenge. That's one that you need to think about to be able to overcome. How can I help somebody that has a very small pool of money be able to get into their first home? Or how could I get an offer accepted that's going to require the seller to contribute closing cost assistance to my buyer? You're going to have to get very good at positioning your offers if this is the subset that you wanted to work with. So that's a skill that you would want to cultivate because it's going to be valuable for your business. Now, what are the required tasks that you're going to need to do to find your ideal customers? So I already told you about my friend Mike that went and sat at the golf club a couple days a week to go have lunch. That's what he did because he wanted to get in front of those people. What is something that you could do to become the first-time homebuyer expert? Well, you would need to have knowledge of first-time homebuyer programs. The county does classes that you can go attend to be certified as a first-time homebuyer program. I think it's like the Pasco POP program in Pasco. Hillsborough has their own version. Pinellas has their own version. I would imagine Hernando has their own version too. Go become familiar with what do the counties offer? What are their limits? What are their income criteria? How quickly do they traditionally run out of money? Because again, let's say that in Pasco, by June, their first-time homebuyer money for the year is gone. Okay, that's something that you need to know. Because if you start talking to somebody in July or August and they're like, oh, I want to do this Pasco down payment program. Unfortunately, Pasco's out of money until October, November, whenever it rolls over again. So what does your timeline look like? Can we go ahead and get you into the pool for that when the money becomes available again? Or are there other down payment assistance programs that we might be able to get you? Florida bond program. I haven't done this in a while, so I can't remember all of them. But there are other programs that are not necessarily county specific. The second part would be to partner with a lender who is also skilled in working with first-time home buyers using those programs. Not all lenders are created equally, okay? Let's say you're working the luxury segment. Having a lender that specializes in jumbo loans would be a huge thing for you because not every lender does jumbo loans well. So not every lender works first-time home buyers. It's also important to have a lender that knows first-time home buyers, because if you have a lender that gets frustrated when you have a buyer that asks 50,000 stupid questions, what to us would seem like a stupid question, that's not going to be a great lender for a first-time home buyer. Because at the end of the day, they don't know. You know, we really take for granted the fact that we do this every day. And I tell my buyers, this is kind of a tangent, but it warrants saying. When I'm working with a first-time home buyer, I tell them, this is going to be a roller coaster. This is going to be very emotional for you. So here's what I'm going to tell you. When you call me in hysterics because the lender just told you they need another document or they need, you know, this or that, I'm not going to be able to get on that roller coaster with you. Because while you are very emotional, I am going to stay level. I'm not going to get super excited. I'm not going to get super anxious. I'm not going to get dragged into those peaks and valleys, because at the end of the day, this is just Tuesday for me. This is what I do. So I warned them in advance. I am not going to get onto that emotional roller coaster with you. I'm going to be the one driving the roller coaster. And at the end of the transaction, while it may seem cold or it may seem detached, I promise you, me staying level is going to help us find the solutions that you would miss in your emotions. And it's going to allow us to get to the end of the transaction. Because if I'm on this roller coaster with you and I'm going up and down and I'm all emotional and I'm losing my mind, I'm not going to be able to think clearly to come up with the solutions that we need. So they're going to want you to get on that roller coaster with them. They're going to want you to freak out with them. But this is where becoming the expert sets you apart. If I am the doctor that specializes in cancer, right? I'm the oncologist. I deal with people every day who are on an emotional roller coaster because they just found out that their world is about to be rocked. If I am the doctor that is wailing with every single one of these patients, I can't think clearly on how to solve that problem, right? So I tell them right up front, this is going to be very emotional for you. This is going to be a roller coaster. But what I need you to understand is I won't be on that roller coaster with you. I'm going to be the one driving the roller coaster, finding the solutions to make sure we get you back to that starting gate and get you into your home. That's the promise that I make to you. That's the commitment that I make to you. So when we get into that transaction and the buyer is just bawling because the appraisal came in $79,000 low, which happened to my wife last week. We were set to close on a deal next Friday. Appraisal came in $79,000 low. It happens. The buyers were in hysterics. What did we do? We negotiated with the seller or the seller's agent. Seller's agent couldn't convince the seller to come down. So we let them know, we're going to do a cancellation and we're going to go right back out and we're going to find you another property. I understand this is emotional for you, but I'm not going to be emotional with you. So understand that you need a lender that can do the same thing, that's not going to get frustrated when they get those 20,000 questions. Why are you asking for my bank statement for the third time? Well, I had to have it at the beginning, and now I've got to have it again at the end because time has passed. I have to have your most current bank statement. Okay, well, the closing just got moved from the 25th of the month to the 7th. Guess what? I'm going to need another bank statement because now we've got another month. These are the kinds of things that are going to happen that are going to create stress and anxiety for your buyer or for your seller. Understand that in being that expert, you have to stay above that. Now, when you're working out your list out any challenges or problems that you may expect from the customer's point of view. We've already talked about the things that we would expect from our side, but try and put yourself into the shoes of your customer. Because the more that you can anticipate, the more that you can predict, the better ahead you can stay so that you don't get caught up in the emotion of it. Now, at first, this is going to be difficult because you don't know what you don't know. And there are agents on this call, and Katie, I'll kind of call you out because I know you don't care. She wants to know everything there is to know about the process. And what I've had to kind of teach Katie over the last 3 or 4 months or whatever it's been is that a lot of what you're going to learn can only be learned by going through it. I can't possibly run every possible scenario that you're going to encounter because there's just too many of them. I've been in the business almost 8 years now, and there are still things that come up from time to time that I'm like, crap, I've never encountered that before. That's new. It happens. But in turn, by being proactive, by asking those questions, Katie can position herself to not get caught off guard. And it's important because, again, she gets to position herself as the expert by asking somebody who has been through it. By, hey, this situation is one that I think might come up. What would you do? Okay, cool. Let's talk about it. Those are the kinds of things that I want you guys to put on paper. When you're talking about challenges or problems that you could expect from the customer's point of view, you can then come in and go, hey, so this is something that I thought of. I don't know if it would actually come up or not. Is this something that you have experienced with this type of buyer? Let's talk about that, okay? Put it down on paper. Start putting all the problems that could possibly arise on paper. and then let's start working on a solution for them. So using our example of first-time home buyers, they have little or no down payment money. How do we overcome that? They may have credit issues. They don't know what kind of credit it takes to buy a home. They don't know that you need a 620 or a 640. So explain that to them. They have a general lack of knowledge about the process. So explain it to them. And Katie just popped up in chat and she said, facts, I blow up poor Greg constantly. So, but that's the point. I am here as a resource for you guys, and you have brokers and you have other agents and you have lenders and you have inspectors and you have all these people in your back pocket to be able to help you get through these transactions. So think about it. If I'm working with first-time home buyers, these are some things that I could potentially expect to become problems down the road, or even problems that we need to overcome before they're even ready to buy a home. So let's talk about how that would work. How can I help overcome those? Well, the next step, predictably enough, is to come up with the solutions to those challenges. So in our first-time home buyer example, you want to share knowledge on accomplishing home ownership. You want to connect with reputable credit repair companies. We've talked about the lender. These things become your unique value proposition. And we've talked about this in previous classes. What is your unique value proposition? What do you bring to the table that very few others in this arena do? What do you do differently? How do you solve the problem that your buyers are facing or your sellers are facing? Have those solutions put on paper. Know the answer to the question before you go in. The next thing is creating relationships with people or companies that provide you with an in for your ideal customer. Get to know the golf pro at the golf course. Get to know the guy that works in the pro shop or the girl that works in the pro shop. Get to know the person that waits tables most days in that restaurant at the golf club. Because what does that do? It provides you an in. It creates an advocate for you. And when you have advocates, then now you have people that are going to vouch for you, know you, like you, trust you. I harp on this all the time. You have people that go in and go, oh, I know this guy, Greg. He sells homes in here all the time. You're thinking about buying in here? Hold on, I've got his card right here. Let me give it to you. Do you think they're going to call the 57 other realtors that they know? Why would they? They have somebody that they already have identified as the expert. If you have the expert, why would you go to the general practitioner? If you have somebody that is uniquely qualified to fix your problem, why would you go see somebody else? If I'm having sinus issues, I'm not going to go see an orthopedic surgeon. I'm going to go see an ENT, an ear, nose, and throat doctor. If I have a specialist, I don't need to go find somebody else. Now, using our example of first-time home buyers, talked about mortgage and lender. What about newlywed services? First-time home buyers tend to be newlyweds. Wedding photographers, wedding planners, florists. These are people that you could network with that would provide good opportunities for you to get in front of these people that are about to get married. Maybe you want to go sponsor the bridal expo or something like that. Sponsor golf tournaments. Gives you opportunities to get in front of those people. If you're doing waterfront communities, maybe you go sponsor a fishing tournament. I mean, you kind of have to think outside the box here because you want to be able to get in front of people that nobody else is getting in front of, or getting in front of them in the time frame that they haven't already gotten in front of somebody else. Another one would be apartment leasing managers. These are people that are constantly hearing about people moving in and moving out of apartments. They might be a good advocate for you. You want to be the solution that they didn't know they needed. So in our first-time homebuyer example, have an email that outlines exactly what happens from the time the contract is executed until closing day. I have what I call the next steps email. And as soon as I put anybody under contract, I send them this next steps email. And it starts by saying, congratulations, the seller has accepted your offer. Now the real fun begins. Within the next 3 days, you need to make escrow at ABC Title Company. Their address is 123 Main Street. Their phone number is blah, blah, blah. Make sure on your check, when you drop off that escrow, in the memo line that you put the property address that you're under contract for, 456 Main Street. I put all this in the email. After that, we need to schedule an inspection within the next 10 days. Here's a list of 3 inspectors that my previous customers have used with good result. Now, you're free to use anybody you want. You can go on Google and just search home inspectors Newport Richey, and there's a long list of them. I provide you 3 that my customers have used with good experience because I want you to have the best experience you can have through this process. You're under no obligation to use anybody that I send to you, but I just like to provide you a few names of people that you could go to. After that, after we get through inspections, the lender's going to order the appraisal. Make sure that that appraisal gets ordered. We're also going to get our insurance bound. Now that we're in the summertime, we're in hurricane season. If a hurricane gets inside the box, I think it's like 200 miles outside the state. If we've got a storm in that box, insurance is not getting bound. If we were supposed to close next week and we've got a storm sitting there, you're not closing. So I encourage my buyers to bind their insurance policies as soon as they possibly can. Because you can bind it for the day of closing. Meaning, I can call my insurance company and go, hey, I want to go ahead and bind that policy that you quoted for me. I want it to be effective July 3rd, but I want to go ahead and bind it today. Now, it may be that your buyer has to pay a little bit to bind that policy. You know, maybe it's a small percentage or whatever. Have them do it because it all comes out of their closing costs. So that amount of money that they're expecting to bring to the table, this amount is part of it. So have that conversation with them. Give them the list of the utility companies that they're going to need to know to be able to have the utilities turned on. In some instances, they're not going to be able to have like the electric turned on until they get that copy of the ALTA at closing. But when they've just signed 57,000 pieces of paper, it's a huge relief to them to know, here are the companies that I need to call to be able to get that done. These are the things that you can do to be that solution. Because what's going to happen when they're going through and they're talking to somebody who may also be looking to buy their first home? Oh my goodness. Oh, sorry. They're going to tell them, you know what? My agent was amazing. My agent sent me this email that told me step by step by step by step by step exactly what's going to happen. When I had my VA buyers, I would put in there, oh, the other thing, you need to make formal application with your lender within 5 days. I've already sent your lender a copy of the contract, so you just need to reach out to them in the next couple of days and make sure that they have your formal application. But with my VA buyers, I would tell them, here's what you need to understand about VA. Everything is siloed because every piece of information you send them is considered classified information because you are a veteran. So what happens is lender A has to send it to processor B, but lender A is not legally allowed to send it to processor B. So processor B is going to reach out and ask you for the exact same piece of information that you've already provided to lender A. Now what happens is processor B gets it, they do their deal, then it goes to underwriter C. Well, underwriter C is not allowed to get that information from processor B or lender A. So now they have to ask for it a third time. It is the most frustrating thing in the world for a buyer to have to send the same piece of information 3 or 4 times. But I will tell you, if you do VA deals, it happens every single time. So I warn them right up front. When anybody asks for a piece of information, keep it in a file, keep it separate, and keep it handy. Don't pack it away, because I guarantee you, you're going to have to send it at least one more time. So that way, if you warn them about it up front, it's not nearly as frustrating for them when they come back and go, hey, I need a copy of that form. Okay, no problem. Greg already warned me that you were probably going to ask for it. I've got it right here in my folder. Let me scan it and send it to you. That's the type of thing that creates you as the expert, that sets you apart from everybody else. This is when you don't get beat up over your commission, when you don't have people that are going to interview half a dozen realtors, because they know that you are the expert that they need. So first-time home buyers, this is a post that this agent had put up there. And it said, why in the world are you still renting? Rent goes up every year, but your mortgage payments don't. Congratulations, you're making your landlord rich. Let's break that cycle. I have an awesome $15,000 down payment assistance program, a 100% financing FHA program, another 100% financing conventional program, and always 100% VA. I'd love to make home ownership happen for you. Send me a message or check out my website for some of those success stories. And this is something you could target to a specific group of people on Facebook. This is a way to get in front of the people that you want to get in front of. Maybe this is a picture of you out on the golf course, and you say, it's a beautiful day here at Dunedin Links, or whatever the golf course is. I don't know, whatever. Could you imagine living here? I would love to help you find your dream golf course community. Here's my website, or give me a call, and let's talk about how I might be able to help you achieve your dream. Is it that hard to do? Of course not. So continue to seek new ideas and ways to expand opportunities to grow your niche. So maybe you focus on half a dozen golf courses, but then you expand out and you start getting to know some of the others in other parts of town. Going back to our first-time homebuyer experience, post in social media platforms with the largest number of young adults, like we just looked at. Get access to databases of those people that are graduating college. A lot of times when people graduate college, they go and buy their first home. Bridal shows, apartment complexes, we've kind of talked about those. Think about ways that you could get in front of those buyers. Think outside the box. Now, when you have a good referral source, show your appreciation in a big way. Here's where it gets to be a little bit gray, okay? We are not allowed to pay unlicensed individuals for real estate referrals. We're just not, okay? That doesn't mean that I can't send a friend of mine a gift basket. I take them out to dinner, take them to go see a ball game or a hockey game, take them out to a concert. In doing so, I am not paying a direct referral for a single transaction. I am thanking a referral source for their continued support. There's the gray area. It's tricky because it can't be something that you do for every single transaction, or it potentially becomes a referral for business. So be creative. You know, if somebody has referred you business, say, hey, you know what? I really appreciate that referral. I would love the opportunity to take you to dinner sometime. Let's go to Ocean Prime. Let's go grab some seafood, whatever. Maybe if they send you another referral the next time, maybe they get a gift basket, whatever. Find out what they're into and help them accomplish it, achieve it, get it, whatever. You don't pay referrals to unlicensed individuals, but you show your appreciation to your referral sources in very meaningful ways. Again, this is a gray area. I'm the first one to acknowledge it. As long as you are staying on the white shade of gray, staying on the good side, the light side, playing on that, you don't pay directly for referrals, but you show appreciation to your referral sources. So I just want to be clear about that. I don't want you or me or anybody else getting in trouble. So I want to stop here for just a minute and have you guys pop into chat or turn your microphones on, and let's talk about what kind of group you would want to go after and what some of those strategies or challenges might be for those. So what do you guys have? As we've gone through it, do any of you have a specific niche or subgroup or something that you want to work with? And if so, let's talk about it.
Hi, Greg. This is Sally. Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Hi. So I just moved up to close to the Ocala area, just north of the villages. And so I thought I would start working with the retirement community up here.
Absolutely.
And I like your idea about maybe going in, because the neighborhood I live in currently is a golf neighborhood. There's a golf course there. Maybe learning how to golf and doing some of the other activities that are here to meet people and make some friends that way.
Absolutely. And that's the greatest way to network, because it's something that you already have in common with them. You already have those points of commonality. You live in the same community. You are at similar stages in your life. You have, whatever that is. By finding some of those points of commonality, you establish that they know you, like you, trust you, they want to work with you, and in turn, they want to refer other people to you as well. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I've always wanted to learn how to play golf, and I want to play tennis as well. So
there you go.
Maybe
perfect opportunity.
Yeah.
Nice. Who else? What else do you guys have? Diane said she'd been thinking about first-time home buyers already. She likes the young folks that are just starting out and being able to help them. So that's exactly right. Those are the kinds of things that, as long as you're passionate about it and it's something that you really enjoy, then that passion is going to carry over. And that's what really makes the difference. Because if you ever talk to somebody that's just like, and I'll give you an example. I want to get a Jeep. So the other day on my day off, my wife and I went to the Jeep dealership and I was talking to the salesman, and the salesman loved Jeeps. So he and I hit it off immediately. We started talking, and you could just tell that that passion that we shared was like, okay, cool. I'm talking to the right person. I'm not talking to the guy that doesn't know anything about him. That's where it really becomes beneficial, I guess, for lack of a better term, because those are the types of people that you're really going to connect with. And when you can connect with those people, then you're really going to be able to achieve whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. So that's what I would tell you guys, is as you're going through here, find the way to be able to accomplish whatever that is for you. And Brooke said, I have the same passion for first-time home buyers and to make their dream of home ownership come true when they thought they never could. It's all very overwhelming, and I want to help them make it a possibility. So those are the kinds of things that you absolutely want to do. And Katie said, all my clients recently have been first-time home buyers as well, and I really enjoy working with them. It's very rewarding to work with first-time home buyers, because it's something that in a lot of cases, you're helping them achieve something that they never thought they could achieve. And there's so much reward in that. But don't get too bogged down with, you know, it has to be this or it can't be that or whatever the case may be. There's so many opportunities to go out there and just find whatever it is that is going to be a good thing for you. So that's what I have for you guys this week. And I really just want to challenge you to take this week and think about, what subsection of real estate would you like to work with? Put it down on paper. And it may be that as you start digging into it, your first idea may not work. You may find that, hey, I want to work this particular community. But then you go in there and realize that, you know, one agent gets 90% of the listings in there. Well, that's a pretty steep hill to try and overcome. You know, I'm not saying that you can't do it, but I'm just saying set some realistic expectations about what it is that you're trying to do. So I really appreciate you guys being here. As always, I hope it was beneficial, and make it a great week, and we'll talk to you again soon.